Welcome back, House fans. Today we have a super special guest. We got Belmonte, the #1 bowler in the world, on the channel today. I'm going to get to bowl a game with him, and I'm going to get to ask him all of those questions that I've always wanted to ask. You know, some tips and tricks that he might have for me to make me a better bowler. And all this was filmed before the TOC, before he won, and before Kokomo, before I won. So some of these tips and tricks might have helped me win my first PBA title. So stay tuned to check that out. And if you guys want to see more of Belmonte's content, you can head on over to his YouTube channel and check out some of the stuff that he's been putting out, some vlogs from his majors. So check that out and stay tuned for the rest of this video to see what kind of tips and tricks Belmonte's got for me. Let's get into the action. All right, welcome back to the House channel. Today I got a super special opportunity where I get to bowl a game with Belmonte, fire some questions, ask him some things, not necessarily for you guys as much as it is just helpful questions to me and things that I've always wondered about the guy that I've been watching on TV since I was like 12.
Packy, what's going on?
Thanks for coming on.
Mate, no worries at all. Throw a few shots, have a chat, see what we come up with.
All right.
Hey, but I gotta say, this is my first time at the Wichita facility.
How do you feel about it?
I'm very impressed.
It's super nice.
Super nice.
Yeah.
There's a really cool vibe in here.
Yeah.
Everyone's super friendly. Everyone's really committed to their game. It's I'm very jealous. We never had anything. We never had anything like this.
That's one of the reasons I stick around.
Yeah, I can understand why. The lanes are but
if I could change anything, it'd be the house pattern. He said I could ask him a question every time I strike. You did say right before we started that the pens have a funny way of falling.
Yeah, when you press record.
When you press record. So I do have a list.
All right, fire one at me.
What's one piece of advice you would have for me, being someone who's not necessarily a rookie, you know, had a couple of years in, made some TV shows, but not necessarily had any wins or consistent success? Like, what's one piece of advice you would say to help me out?
I think one of the big problems mentally for a lot of guys, especially once they get a taste of TV or they make a few cuts in a row, is their focus becomes very narrowed into short term. It's, well, now that I've made it, I want to do it every week, which is understandable.
Yeah, obviously.
But I like to still take a step back and pan out at what your career is trending towards. And so when you do take a step back and you see those spikes of good performances and you see a couple of dips, but then you see another couple of spikes and you pan out, you can kind of see this trend of where it's going.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for people to be able to see, I'm on the right path.
The long term.
You know, it's just maybe the spikes aren't happening as frequently as I want in the now, but I'm going the right direction. And so when you see it like that, I feel like it lessens the load on you week to week to week. You don't go into a place going, I gotta make the show this week. I gotta make the cut because it's been a couple of events or it's been a year since I've done it. And so you just take these little wins as spikes, you come down, you just keep building, and then eventually
the spikes become
a little more frequent.
More often.
Yeah. And I wish someone had probably told me that in my second year, because I had a very short first year as a rookie.
Was it a good year?
I won.
Yeah.
So I had success. We were a slightly different format. We were an exemptor at the time.
You were an exemptor?
We were. But the year after, I didn't win. But I remember thinking, I won the previous year.
I should win every year.
I should win every year. I won my first year. Why can't I keep doing this? And it took me a moment to say, hey, like, let's not look at it week to week. Let's look at it as big picture. What direction am I going? Yeah. And I was calmer. A little more relaxed
week to week. Not so much press.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the biggest problem with a lot of players is you can see it in their face. You can see the pressure. You can see them pressing. Yeah. Game 1, frame 1, ring 10, the world is collapsing, you know? I still don't like these lanes.
Need more strikes.
Can you see my underwear, Kev, when I bowl?
I wasn't looking, but I'll look.
Sure you weren't.
I wasn't looking.
Sure you weren't.
Nah, I wasn't.
I feel like the shirt comes up, pants go down. That was a pretty good one. So I'm going to ask a pretty good question.
Okay.
Okay, so now I know that I know a little bit about you.
Yeah.
I know you started a little bit later than some players. You went to a birthday party or something like that, or
I just started in high school.
you started in high school.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, what's the thing that you felt came to you the fastest? What about the game where you're like, oh, I get it, the fastest as a later bloomer?
Wow, that's a very good question. I would say the lane play came the latest. Always, I feel like for everybody it does. But probably just the fastest was probably just the ability to like throw the ball, hook it, and have like some sort of confidence in competition, just because I always grew up playing other sports. So it's not like when I go and coach now, I see that it came to me easy. At the time, it didn't seem like it.
Right.
But people were always like, "Oh, like I knew you were going to be fine because you threw it good." And I was like, "I never thought I threw it good."
Right.
But watching other people, I always think the physical game always came the quickest just from playing basketball, baseball, soccer, every sport growing up. It was like you watch somebody do something and you can do it quicker than other people who haven't played sports in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. Like, I played a lot of sport and still do when I go home.
Yeah.
And I do get asked, do you think that had a contributing factor in your success as a bowler? And I do think so. I think what you learn from other sports, whether it's the competitive nature, whether it's
just like the body movement.
the body movements, hand-eye coordination,
100%.
So whenever I hear people say, all I do is bowl, 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 I'm like, that's great. But you know what? Throw in one other sport.
Yeah.
Just to get a little bit of
do something. It doesn't need
an idea of how that sport can help you as a
learn
bowler.
other things. Yeah.
I like that.
Especially for people looking to come to colleges, I think team sports, also just in life, I think team sports are huge, just in terms of like learning how to work with other people, whether you like them or not.
That's probably my biggest flaw.
The team?
We never had team
good PBA
bowling.
league.
We never had college, high school bowling, nothing.
Yeah.
And so my whole career has always been
solo.
about, I need to think about me because I need to win. And then you get thrown into like a PBA league environment.
And it's been the exact opposite for me.
It's the other way around.
The first time I ever bowled was on my high school team, 5-man team. Individual points don't matter. The only thing that mattered was the team score.
Yeah.
And then I come to college, it's really the same thing. All they preach is we, not me, right? Like, how do I get us to be better? If I get better, we get better. It's not if I get better, I'm going to go win this tournament on the weekend. It's if I get better, then I contribute. Either if I'm bowling on the team or not, I'm pushing my teammates to get better because I'm also improving.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
See, I had a hard time wrapping my head around the idea of, for 97% of the season, I'm competing against you.
And now I'm working with you.
And now I'm supposed to tell you what moves to make?
Yeah.
Like, to me, I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Good news is you can pick me. You don't have to tell me any moves.
Okay.
I'm on the left side.
Okay. That is true.
Oh ho! That's got to strike.
Stay on your own side.
All these talk about right-handed moves. I told you this was going to be a 10 to 1 question there.
I like these lanes.
You like them now?
Yeah, I like them now. I just had to make a couple of moves.
That's all it was. Do you think it's hard for you to turn it off in the league?
Say again?
Like turn off the solo aspect?
Well, if I'm honest...
Or do you just not know how to help? Or do you just not help?
No, I'm trying harder now than ever before.
Because it's the one tournament you haven't won?
That.
Like literally the only one.
I see something and I have hesitated. I'm like...
I don't want to tell them.
Well, it's not that I don't want to tell them. It's almost like this could really benefit them next week. Right?
Yeah.
And so like I have to let go of that and just be like, well, if it benefits them as an individual later on, you're just going to have to get better yourself.
Yeah.
But I have hesitated towards that, and I need to let that go.
And I also feel like it's different on the left side of the lane. Like, I don't know if you've noticed it. It is like the lefties have a little bit of like, they talk more about what's going on in the lanes than the righties, for sure.
It's probably because there's less of you to worry about.
Yeah, like, oh, hey, if we can all make it good for each other, then
We're all going to do okay.
I still only have to beat 7 guys.
Exactly.
8 guys.
Yeah.
You have to go and still beat 60.
Exactly.
Lane is no good?
No, the lanes are fine. That was not a great shot.
It was pretty good. I don't think I'm gonna strike. How did the whole spare ball thing come about? Like, when did because you made what, a white one? Black one first or a white one?
It was a white one.
White one.
So my first title was a dual pattern event. We had Shark on the left lane and Viper on the right.
And you threw a plastic on the right.
And I threw
hard.
plastic. And it used to be just a Team Storm clear. I actually don't know if they ever did sell them here in the US, but they were abroad.
Yeah.
And so I was traveling through Asia and I saw it in the window of a pro shop in the Philippines.
And you were like, I want that.
So I was like, hey, that's really cool. Hey, what can I do to get that? You can have it. I'm like, okay, great.
You're like, awesome.
And I just used it everywhere. Everyone thought it was kind of cool. And then when I won with it, Storm head office got inundated with questions. Where can we get one? We want this white ball. And then to Storm's, there's been such amazing partners of mine. They did not have to do it, but they said, well, he won with it. He kind of made it a little famous. Let's put his logo in it. And just out of nowhere, they said, we'd like to give you some commissions.
And you were like,
we want to make this ball.
amazing, yeah.
And I was just like, thank you, so grateful.
Yeah.
Can you strike already to ask me a question?
I'm trying.
All right, we got one.
The rack's notoriously bad on lane 4, so I might, I'm blaming it on everything but myself, because that's what us pros do. This one is pretty personal to me.
Okay.
I have been wondering for 4 consecutive years in a row now. You said you had a swing tip for me. About 4 years ago when I started, like halfway through that first season, or maybe even in the beginning of season 2, you said you had a swing tip for me and you weren't gonna tell me, but you said that you would answer any question I asked you.
Oh, you're all right.
So I'm asking for the swing tip.
Okay, can we have a timeout for a second? Let me lay some context to why this is hilarious to me. Just as Packy described, I was watching him practice, a young kid on tour, thought I'd maybe offer some wisdom to him, and I could see there was something going on with his swing. And I walk over to him and he was just finishing practicing. He actually had taken his shoes off and I'd said, hey, listen, next time you practice, let me know. I think there's something I can help you with your swing. The very next time he came up to me and he said, hey, I'm practicing down here. Can you come and give me that tip? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, like no problem. And so I remember this very clearly. I was walking to go help him and my phone rang. So I answered the phone. I took way longer than I thought and I completely forgot. And then when he saw me, to play it off, I kind of went, oh yeah, like I'll get you next time. And then I thought this could be like a really funny bit for like a really long time. I keep promising this amazing tip and then I'm
waiting for it.
I get distracted or I have something else to do or whatever it is. And so the best part of this bit was he was playing the Players Championship. So he's playing the region finals for the Players Championship and I'm in the commentary booth. And I asked Rob Stone, listen, this is gonna mean nothing to you. It's gonna be hilarious for me. Can you set me up on TV saying something along the lines of, if you had a tip to give Packy, what would it be? And then, just as I'm about to say the tip, I need you, Rob Stone, to cut me off and say we're going to commercial. So he says, yeah, I can do that. And so when you watch that match back, Rob sets it up. I'm looking, because we also have a little clock to tell us when commercial break is coming. And so I'm filling in the time, looking at the clock, and then I say at the most perfect time, there's this one that it'll change his life, his game. He'll win so many more times. And then Rob just cuts me off. We go to commercial break and I'm done in the booth. And I texted Packy, hey, good bowling, but you really got to watch that show back. I think you'll find it funny. So now, that's the context. That's why
I'm ready for it.
He really wants the tip. But okay, I'll give you the tip, all right? So I kind of feel like we're oversharing.
Insider information.
Yeah, I do, but all right. So for me, the position of hand, elbow, and the other side of the elbow is really critical in the swing. And so when there's movement from the palm to the outside and inside part of the elbow, I think it really changes, one, the swing path and the launch angle. And if there's too much movement or it's not a consistent movement, then it might feel fine, but then as this 2-3 positions have changed, it causes sometimes only just a little variance, but when we create as much angle as we do, a little variance
means a lot down lane.
Can mean a lot down lane. And so I was going to tell you that when you get to your push away, as it comes into the backswing, that whole process, you need to imagine that the 3 points are connected. They're in a line. And so wherever you want to push away, that's the line that it needs to stay on. And so if it's here, that line needs to stay. And as soon as any one of the 3 points starts to move, it can move either way. Unless you're saying that is the position that I want it to be in, you need to focus on those 3 points. If you can do that through your whole swing and imagine that imaginary visual representation of a line that goes through the backswing, through the forward swing, through to your target, you will become far more consistent in your launch angles. And my reasoning was, watching you, I always felt like I saw too many 3-7 combinations, more than I ever saw you go Brooklyn. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm watching his swing and his launch angle, and every now and then he shoots it off left more than he wanted to. And so I'm like, I can see it, like there's movement in the swing between those 3 points. Maybe if he stopped that and was able to keep that on a much more direct line, you're not going to strike every time, but maybe your misses become
closer,
smaller. So there you have it.
It's been 4 years in the making of
now I'm annoyed because I'll never be able to use that bit ever again. Now I got to think of another bit that I can use to annoy him.
Now I'm either going to throw the rest of the shots pretty good, or they're all going to be horrendous trying to focus on that. So.
Well, I can tell you how to hit a nail in with the hammer, but I can't be the one holding the hammer to actually hit the nail. I felt like this was a commercial break. I got
tightened
cold.
Up. Yeah.
I needed to move like 3 and 2 left.
Shooting it off to the left.
But the hard part with that is actually speed control, because when you're really focused on that line, you tend to push through it too hard.
Throw it faster.
And so you need to be able to work on that force and pressure on your downswing, controlling that to control your ball speed. But once you do work that out, I promise you'll hit the same spot an extra X percent.
Yeah.
Which on our tour, if you can get an couple of extra percent of good shots, that's the difference between cashing and winning.
A TV show, a win.
All right, so you essentially stole one of my all-time greatest tips. So I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go deep. I'm gonna go personal with this one.
Oh boy.
There is, and always has been, and most likely always will be, negative comments about being left-handed. Does that affect you? If it has, have you gotten through it? And if it hasn't, why? Why haven't you got past it?
It used to annoy me. It never really never affected what happened out there as much as it was just the discredit for when you bowl good.
So when you bowled well,
you averaged 250, and the only reason that you beat me is because you are left-handed.
so when you're bowling well, you've never had the thought in your mind like, I'm going to get trashed because I'm left-handed today.
Not when it's happening.
Only after the fact.
Only after. And over the course of time, you get better, or it just happens often enough where people stop giving you that it's left-handed. And now it's just like, oh yeah, like they're joking with you. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, you're joking with me, but I know you mean it a little bit.
Yeah.
So
there's a famous quote: "Never a truer word is said in jest."
yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
I get it.
I don't think it affects me as much as it used to, because now I have a different mindset of, I did beat you because I'm left-handed. I also beat you because I'm better than you. Like, there's a reason that I won.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I practice for 4 hours a day down here, not because I have a left hand.
Exactly.
There was also 10 other guys in the field who had a left hand. How come they didn't win?
That's right. Yeah.
So
I think
something along those
I
lines.
always think the hardest part when you get pigeonholed into something because of your style, your technique,
You're
an
left-handed, or you're
advantage,
6'8" and you play basketball. Of course you can dunk.
dunk it, right? I always felt like the hardest part was, how do I convince others this is not who I am? I'm not a one-trick pony. But you answered it by saying, I'm going to practice 4 hours a day. I'm going to get really good across the whole lane, because the same thing used to be said about me. He can only loft the left gutter and do well. I'm like, all right, well, I will loft the left gutter and do well.
And I'm also going to fire
But
it
I'm
the
also
right
going to fire it up the gutter and see how we go. And so now I think you're on the right philosophy of,
And also,
when you hear something like that, you know you're doing the right thing in that area, and then you want to hear it about something else. I love it now when I hear
and now it's the transfer to urethane, right?
whatever it is.
Yeah, for
It's
me,
like-
it went from left-handed to purple hammer, and now it's whatever.
And now it's like, well, that's part of the game. It's a skill that you need to develop. If
and they
you
also
can't,
use it, so why am I?
but they
bowling?
don't do it as well as you, and that's where the gripe comes in.
Yeah.
They didn't loft the ball as well as I did, right? They didn't have the left side of the lane to play like you. So there's always a reason, there's always a selfish reason, or there's a selfish position where it starts manifesting.
Yeah.
I can't do it, or I can't do it as well, therefore I don't like it.
Yeah.
And the philosophy is the greatest bowlers of all time have never said that. I've spoken to them all. Norm never complained about two-handed bowling, or power player guys. Never.
Yeah.
Still won. Still became a legend.
100%.
Pete, Walter, all these guys never complained about what someone else was doing. The guys who you forget about, that's all they ever did.
Because there's a reason for them not.
They always complain.
Instead of going and getting better at that skill that they don't have, or
Exactly.
getting better at their own skill, they just. Oh. Jeez.
Take that, Ninepin.
Striking up a storm over there.
Take that. I am throwing the latest collaboration ball between Storm and I. Fate. It's pretty good. That was a pretty good shot.
Really focused, you know.
All right, ask me another
Got it
question.
all in line. Ask you another question.
Sure.
Now the swing tip's out the way. Thank
Did you
God.
like that tip? Did it make sense to you?
That made a lot of sense.
Okay.
And I think it's something that I've never thought about in that way. As much as I've always just focused on my forearm, I've never thought about I've always thought keep your elbow in, right? Like a one-handed bowler, keep your elbow in, or try and make sure your forearm's in line with your target and stuff like that. I've never thought of the three-piece combo that is hand, front, and back of the elbow, right?
Yeah. So even when it comes back, you got to think where that.
Where is it hitching out, or is it where?
'cause you can get
or
your
is it where it
elbow
should
in,
be?
but then you can over rotate your hand. Yeah. Anyway, move on.
100%. So sometimes I do struggle with consistency week to week. A small part of that is the lanes, very small, whether it's left-handed, right-handed, whatever. But what do you think I could do to be more consistent week to week, outside of just looking at the bigger picture? How could I, on those weeks that I don't bowl as well, what do you think? Maybe it's just something you see in general from the group of people that don't bowl well every week. What do you think separates the guys that bowl well every week from a guy like me who might have a little spike and dip?
I think there's a really simplistic way to explain it. It's a very hard way to fix it.
Yeah.
What we do before the foul line in terms of shot repetition, that should never change. You can have a good or bad week with ball motion, seeing the lane, what part of the lane am I playing, but the execution should be bang on every week. And so when you say you have these dips, or if other players are having these,
doesn't go as well.
The question I would ask you is, are you repeating well that week? Is what's going on beyond the foul line causing you issues before the foul line? And you have to be able to separate ball motion, score, results from what am I doing to let go of this ball.
Yeah.
There's no reason. It doesn't matter what the pattern is. Your execution needs to be amazing.
Yeah.
You can execute and get penalized because you're in the wrong part of the lane. You're using the wrong ball.
Throwing the wrong speed.
You're throwing the wrong shot shape. But you can't look at that and say, I'm bowling terribly. I feel like at this level that I've gotten to now, I never want to say, and it does happen, but I work so hard to say, I didn't bowl bad this week, I just had the wrong tool in the wrong part of the lane.
Yeah.
If I say, I didn't bowl well this week, then I'm joining you in here for 4 hours to fix that part of the game. So you need to be able to have that conversation with yourself and say, was I happy with my percentage of execution this week? And did I just need to learn more about shot shape, ball equipment choice, whatever? Or can you honestly say, you know what, I actually bowled okay. Like I bowled pretty well.
Yeah.
I just didn't have it.
That's how I feel like this past week didn't go well for me. But the second block, I was like, I'm just going to focus on throwing it good still, because unless I have a miracle block, I don't really have a chance. So let's just try and. I was like, I'm gonna bring a notebook down. How many good shots do I throw a game? If it was 8 yesterday, how can it be 9 or 10 today? And I feel like over the course of my career, the short beginning to the career that it's been, I've focused more on the bad weeks about continuing to throw it well, knowing that I still need to throw it well for the following week, even if I don't create something that I like to see out there. But you think it really just comes down to the separation of like what's going on out there and what's going on before the foul line?
What I'm saying is the separation allows you to identify the problem. And too many times people are not accountable or honest for what happens before the foul line. And so you hear it all the time. I didn't match up. I didn't have the right ball. That can be true.
Yeah.
But if the honest answer is my timing was inconsistent, my launch angles were all off, if you don't address that, if you don't have that conversation with yourself in the mirror and say, like even if I had the magic ball, you weren't going to win because you were missing spares and you were throwing it all over the place. So let's redefine the problem and the issue, and then let's focus on it. And if it is ball motion and you didn't feel like you played the right part of the lane, then educate yourself. Talk to your reps. What did you see? What didn't I see? What did the winner do? What could I have done better? Add that to the Rolodex of memories, to ideas for the future, and you should become better even after a poor week. Again, I don't think enough players on our tour, or maybe anywhere in the world,
honest reflection.
There is not enough accountability on their own performance. It always is the lane, the carry, the pin racks.
I felt like
a bunch of reasons, but ultimately, if I'm telling you now, those first few shots, you didn't throw it great.
No,
There's your answer.
That's where I felt like when we were in Springfield, the tournament was over and I was like, man, my hand was like all over the place.
It's important to say
whether it's
that.
around the side or up the back or whatever, I was like, I tried to throw 3 shots the same, and one of them was always either too much rotation or too far up the back.
Well, there you go. I think that's the goal. The goal is to identify it and then understand it and then find a solution for it, rather than some guys will say, it was loaded to a bad week, forget about it and move on. And to some degree, I can understand that philosophy because you do need confidence.
To not keep going.
But I find confidence in fixing a problem.
And
That gives me confidence like, oh, I just figured this out. Next week's going to be great because I realize now what I was doing
fixed the
wrong. I got to keep moving like 3 and 2 left after we talk.
The longer
Commercial
the talk.
break.
Thought that was another one. Using his towel. Different towel. How many 710s do you think you've made in your lifetime?
I know how many I've made. 2.
Oh, 2?
Yeah. I made one on my birthday. My first one I ever made was on my birthday at the Lucy.
Wow.
And then the second one I made was at the World Series in Detroit. Actually, I don't know if it was the World Series. It might have been the TOC.
Did you need either of them, or it was just like middle of the block? You needed it.
One was in the middle of a game.
Okay.
But I don't know if we needed it at the time. And the other one was either like the first frame or the 11th frame. So it was like
Not a huge
not a
boost
huge
of score.
No, not a huge thing. Hope. Oh, there's one
Speaking
for you.
of getting lucky.
There's one for you.
Yikes! Obviously, you're the greatest of this time period.
Okay.
Since I've
Thank you.
started bowling and probably 10 years prior to that. So you're the greatest of the time period. One of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. What do you think separates you from the other guys on tour? Is it like a mentality, a physical, like, yes, you have a lot of rev rate, you're very accurate. Is it that? Is it the mindset? Is it something else? Is it the lane play choices that you're just smarter at? What makes you win a zillion majors?
Okay, let me answer this by kind of slightly rephrasing your question. I don't want to compare because I'm not so bold to know what everyone else is going through, thinking in their head, and I don't ask them.
Yeah.
So I don't have any direct information to say, I do this, do you also? Oh, you don't?
Yeah. So,
now I can
so
say
what
that's
just makes you elite?
So I feel like I have won so many times when,
What a great.
let me finish, when the field thought I wasn't going to make the cut. When there was a sense of, oh, he's going to miss the cut this week, I have never, to this day, I have never lost that motivation, that push.
That I'm going to show that mentality.
Every single shot, there is a chance for me to make it to the next round. And I will never quit. I will never give up. If there is a 710, I will take one. You know, I don't care if it's for 152 or for 265.
Yeah.
I'm taking one. I never go to the next pair thinking, well, this week's a write-off. Even when it's mathematically impossible.
Yeah.
I never go to the next pair thinking, let me just get through the motion so I can pack my stuff up. I can't allow myself to ever be in a position where it doesn't matter for me this week. Every shot matters to me, every single one. And I think when you get into those major events, you have plenty of games. It's a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah. You're not going to have every game be 225.
But I know that if I never quit, I believe in myself that there is a 3 or 4 game run that can happen at any point that can take me from 200 out of the number to 100 in the number. Or I can be 300 off the show to now I got to win the position round and I'm on the show.
Yeah.
I can never stop thinking like that. I never do. And I think that's something that, like I said, has helped me win so many times because many of the tournaments that I've won, it's not like I've come out of the gate 279, 279. A lot of the times,
first from the start.
A lot of the times I'm sitting 80th after 3, and I just don't let that pull me down. I use it as a rope to climb up.
Yeah. Move 3 and 2?
I did move 2 and 1.
Okay, I was gonna. That was a
just
short.
in case.
That was a short
it wasn't
talk.
as long a conversation. You didn't move enough.
I did not move.
You did not move
I
enough.
even tripped 6th and I didn't move.
The day you got the call about being sponsored, what was that day like? So the day you got the call and said, Packy, Hanrahan would like to offer you a contract to be on Brunswick Star.
Oh, that is, see, when you're not nearly as good as you were, it doesn't happen in a phone call, it happens in an email.
Oh, okay. So you got the email.
Yeah,
so how did it feel?
I don't even remember. It might have been a phone call only because I knew the guy that I knew Brian Graham, who is high up in the Brunswick chain. It felt really good because I'd been throwing Brunswick balls for a while because I like them and because I wanted to get on staff.
Why did you want to get on staff? Was it just to get free balls, or was there like an element of a flex involved?
Not a flex, as it goes back to like my little like teamwork thing as much as it is just becoming part of something that's bigger than just you. Yes, obviously a lot of people like out there watching this video want to get on staff because it's a free bowling ball or maybe a discounted bowling ball, right? Instead of paying 200, you're paying 80 or 90. There was an element of that, but I know like my parents always helped me out. I was really good friends with the guy at Buddy's Pro Shop. He always helped me out. So it wasn't as much the free balls as much as it was like becoming part of a little bigger team.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's like way more mature of an answer that I would have given when I got the call.
You got the call and you were like, free bowling balls.
I was like, oh my God, free bowling balls. I'm telling all my friends I'm sponsored. This is amazing. None of you guys have this stuff.
And how old were you when you got sponsored?
So I've been with Storm, this is my 21st year.
So like 30 years.
This is my 21st year.
I don't know how old you are.
So, you're asking how old I was.
I assume you were.
Hold on a sec.
I said.
You
I said
think
30.
I'm 49 years old, 51 years old? Sorry,
Yeah.
You think I'm 51 years old?
I thought that was a reasonable answer.
Cut this interview short. This guy's a dick. No.
So you've been with them what?
Yeah,
20 or 17 years?
Yeah, so no,
38?
I've been with them 21 years. I've been with Storm for 21 years. I'm now 39. So I was 18 when I got the call, and I'm not joking. It was one of those like super flex moments.
I'm telling all my friends that I just got a contract with Storm.
And look, in Australia, we didn't have very many people on staff.
Not a ton of bowlers, or is there like a big bowling community when you were younger? Now it's a little bigger, I'm assuming.
I would say that it's always been very, very small.
Okay.
Comparatively to here. And so there were like, 2 or 3 other people in the country at the time that were like on staff, not through a pro shop with some guy that hooked them up, like a legit.
You work in a pro shop,
a company in the US sent them the call, gave them a call, sent them the note.
Who called you? Do you remember?
Yeah, Bill Chrisman.
Bill Chrisman called you and said, hey.
Bill Chrisman called me. It all started with Timmy Mack, who saw me bowl a couple of years prior. And he called Bill and, you got to see this kid. This guy bowls like nothing you've ever seen. And then it took a couple of years, but I got a call from Mr. Chrisman. I'd met him previously. I got the call and he said, how would you like to wear a Storm shirt everywhere you go? And I said, I would like that very much.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm going to send you a contract. I want your signature on it. And he said, let's change the game. And I said, let's do it. And that's how I got signed.
Got a chance of redemption on the spare here.
Yeah, I'll make it this time. Mark my words. If I don't make the spare, I'm going to get a jersey of mine, I'm going to sign it, I'm going to give it to Packy, and Packy can give it to one of you guys who follow him. But if I do make it,
then you're going to give me a jersey,
you get nothing.
And I'm going to put it in my house
and
not give it to any of you guys.
You get nothing if I make it.
He missed it on purpose. He's the nicest bowler in the world. He missed it on purpose.
I did miss a little left, but I wasn't hoping to miss by that much. All right, so you guys, you're going to get a jersey. I'll sign it. Packy will figure out a way how to give it to one of you guys. So there you go.
If you could change one thing about the sport of bowling, This isn't so much personal as much as it might be to you. If you could change one thing about the sport of bowling, you've changed it already so much. Obviously, you go to a youth tournament, 75% of them are two-handers. But if you could change one thing about the sport, it could be anything. It could be the people in the sport. It could be the sport itself. It could be anything. What would you do to change it with the snap of your fingers?
I would go back in time, and I would talk to the powers that be to do a better job at educating the public about the game of bowling.
I feel like we're fighting an uphill battle and trying to educate them about what's going on.
I do, and I feel like with a lot of things in bowling, I still meet people on an aeroplane that call the oil wax. Now, they were saying that in the 50s. So how that hasn't translated in, I don't even care if they know patterns, just call it oil.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we haven't done a good enough job at educating the mainstream public on what it is that we do, what we are bowling on, how the game is. And I'm not suggesting they need by any stretch of the imagination to be experts at it,
Yeah.
but the very core basics to understand that we have oil patterns that determine difficulty.
When
And
you
the
bowl on
fact,
TV and when you bowl on Thursday nights, it's not the same. Fuck! The 1-7. That would have been way cooler if, like,
struck together.
we struck at the same time.
Yeah.
No, my answer would have been, and it's something like I always try and do. I think there's a lot of negativity just in the. I feel like almost sometimes, and it's not with everybody, but it feels like a lot of times the better you get, the more negative you are about whether it's the game or yourself.
You're talking to someone who's heard it all before, mate.
Yeah.
I can't.
And there is no fix for that besides just preaching positivity into the world and trying.
I do think in our game we are a sport of. I say this very carefully. We tend to find ways to help those that aren't as good as others, whether it be format changes,
The easiest house
whether
pattern
it might
in the
be
world.
patterns, whether it might be limitations on who can play what and where. And I think it serves as a discredit because a lot of players don't want to get too good. Otherwise, they are limited to play in
They
certain
can't bowl
events.
that tournament, or they only get so much handicap
And
at
I don't
this
like
tournament.
that. I don't like anything that causes a player not to reach their potential.
One.
So,
You think that's the best ball you've made so far?
I do. Yeah. I think
Giving the
Pro
non-Brunswick.
Motion was underrated, but I felt like it was very good for certain situations. I felt like Trend and Trend 2 were really good complements, but not as versatile as Fate.
I'll say I'm watching you throw it, and as I'm moving across the lane, I'm like, this ball is now very,
Dead.
very slow and dead as
Yeah.
it gets to the left. And I'm watching you just continuously move in and hook it.
Yeah, I love it.
Shoot. Or is that the best ball you've made?
Say again?
Or is that the best ball you've made?
That's a good
coolest.
one. That's
the coolest
it's
one.
the prettiest. That was a good one.
Trying. If you could go back and tell yourself 2, 3, 4 years in, and you answered it a little bit earlier, but if you could give yourself one pointer outside of just looking at the general overall picture of it, what would you tell yourself now, 40 gazillion titles in, that when you had a couple or none or whatever, what would you have done to almost really give yourself a quicker, I guess not even a quicker way, but just a better understanding of where it's going to go?
Yeah.
How could you help yourself? if you were 2 years
I think
in?
it's really easy. I don't think I respected each frame the way that it deserved to be respected. I would always want to strike and do my best, but my focus was always about finishing the game strong. You know,
So you start off slow.
a lot of times in my head, I used to put too much emphasis on making sure the 9th and 10th were good frames. And it made me realize, you know, those 2 frames are 20% of a game. What about the other 80%? Like, why are they not as important? What makes these 2 frames more important? Nothing. There shouldn't be. Like, you should be as focused, respecting the frame, every single one, equally. And that means when I split, I take the count, right? Not, oh, we're in the 10th frame and now I need 3 to win. I will treat this with more precision.
Yeah.
It's, I'm in the 3rd frame, I split, I'm going to take the 1 for certain.
Yeah, I'm shooting the 7 pin of a 7, or I'm shooting the 10 pin of a 7.
You may have felt it. I definitely did. There were many times through the game where frustration would lead to a disrespect of the frame. You pick your ball up, you just throw it out there because you're annoyed.
Because you're
and now
upset
I'm
about
like,
what's
I've
going on.
completely disrespected that frame, and now it's making me suffer.
Yeah.
So whether it's a good game, whether it's a bad game, whether it started strong, whether it started slow, whatever frame I'm in, I'm giving my full respect to.
Is the 100%?
That was not full respect.
That wasn't the full respect
That
you just
was-
talked about.
I'm just throwing the ball. Yo, with the forward roll.
Forward roll.
Before you ask that question,
You're gonna strike?
I want to split the 8-9 because I want to respect this shot. I ran over the 8 pin. I didn't split the 8-9, but
Too much of the 8 pin. What a shame.
not enough respect.
Do you still love the actual game as much as you used to? And do you think the things outside of bowling that now that you're not just a staffer, you're the staffer, right? And you have all these trips, you go all over the place, whether it's camps, clinics, work trips that you have to go through for Storm. Do you still love the actual game of bowling as much as you did when you were year 1 on tour?
I think
Or do you love it more?
No, I think it's kind of like, do you love your children more the day they were born or more a year later? I think that's the same equivalent. I love this game as just love. There's not more or less. From the moment I could breathe, the moment I could pick a ball up, I fell in love with the game, and it's how I feel today. There are things about what has happened to me through the game that I don't think when I was younger I was prepared for.
Yeah.
I don't think I was mature enough to handle. But as you get a little older, you accept this is how it is,
Yeah.
which is easier to deal with. But whether I'm talking to the fans here or taking photos with the kids or
Yeah.
when my laces go on, I don't think there's anywhere else in the world I'd rather be.
Yeah.
And I could be averaging 180.
You still love it.
It's just,
I almost find for me
I
that
have to bowl.
Yeah.
I have to bowl.
I almost find for me that the harder days only make me love it more.
They definitely make
That,
the sweeter
like-
days
And not even
better.
and I asked at the last prom, I went around and I asked all the pros, I was like, what do you love most, or what's your favorite part about being a professional bowler? And I've always said it's like the never-ending puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, even when you put that final piece in, you look to the right and there's 20 more pieces that you haven't put on the puzzle yet. And those are the days that you average 180, right? You finally figured it out, and then either you come to the next pair or the next shot, or you drill a new ball and you're like, whoa, okay, well, now here's 20 more pieces I gotta add to the puzzle. And then there's always another 20 and another 40 and another piece that you can add to it to learn, grow, or get better at.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. The puzzle excites me. It frustrates me,
Yeah.
but when you get it right, the satisfaction you feel inside of, wow, I put this together and I won.
Yeah.
Because the winning feeling for me personally it isn't about that final moment. It's the understanding of a combination of an entire week's worth of headaches, ups and downs, blood, sweat and tears, figuratively,
Yeah.
that then comes into the last shot that strikes to win. And that's why I think sometimes it can be very overwhelming, because some of the weeks that are really hard and you get there still, you do. The moment you strike, you're like, this whole week has been draining.
It just hit you.
And now it's just come to me that everything I did was worth it. Everything I did was right. Oh, I made enough right decisions, and it's a good feeling.
3 and 2.
You throw a shot, and I got one last question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so Packy,
Yeah.
you just told me you're in year 4. When Packy Hanrahan finishes his career, in however many years that might be, what do you hope that you can look back on and say, this is what I was able to achieve? What's your ceiling? What would be what you would consider an exemplary career? Exemplary. Yeah, exemplary career.
In terms of like impact or
Anything.
trophy case?
I don't care. If you think that for you to finish, that you had an impact even with your channel, that's enough for you to be like, that was impactful enough for me to think that it was worth it all? Because that's a question I get. What has it been worth it? Because I gave up a lot, and to this day I give up a lot.
Yeah.
Like I'm here talking to you in Wichita rather than
at home with
my family. And so the question is, was it worth it? And that's where I'm like, well, what do I need to achieve for me to think it was worth it?
Have you already achieved what you think you need to do for it to be worth it?
No. But I think I say no because I need to say no. I'm paranoid if I say yes,
That you'll be
I'll leave.
ease off the gas.
I'll leave. I won't come back. And I'm not ready to do that
Yeah,
yet.
I think
So what's it got to be for you?
for me to think that it's worth it.
How about this? Don't answer that. Don't answer that here, but answer it to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? Think about it, and then if that doesn't motivate you to get out of bed more, because whatever you're doing is not enough.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I say to myself.
Yeah.
Whatever I did today is not enough. And
Gotta
so
be
you
the
need to
next thing.
answer that question internally. What do I need to achieve for me to say all the parties, all the things that I've sacrificed?
Yeah.
What does it need to be to make it worth it?
And I know what it is impact-wise, but career, like impact-wise, I want to, like I said earlier, like I want to change people's not perceptions, but attitude about bowling.
Okay.
I want them to think more positively about the game, like think more positively like I do about it. Like view it as, I'm so glad that today challenged me because tomorrow is going to be easier because I learned something today.
That's a good answer.
Whereas career, like I want that to be a part of, a piece of the puzzle, whereas the actual trophy case at home.
Dude, if that's what it is,
Yeah.
I like it. Oh, Packy. Oh, so good, Packy.
You're just
So
you're
good.
just that good.
I like that one. I like that one.
Just a little love tap on the 7.
That's all you need. Are we done?
Yeah, I think we're done. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks.
Packy?
That was awesome for me. I know you said you were going to give them a signed jersey. It's all right, because I'm sure you don't remember this because you have thousands of people, but when I was like 16, 17 years old, you did one of those, like, I don't know, it was with Deandra and I don't know who the older guy was.
Ron Hoppy?
Ron Hoppy. You did one of those coaches down in New Jersey, and I went to it to try and learn something from you.
So I can take full credit for your career. I helped.
When I was a junior in high school.
I helped mold.
When I was a
Packy
junior in high
Hanrahan.
school, you gave one tip. I got a signed jersey, and I called it a great weekend with my dad.
What would have been if I didn't give you that one tip? We may never know who you are, Packy.
Certainly wasn't that swing
You're
tip.
welcome.
Certainly wasn't that swing tip that took me 20 years to get out of you.
Oh, I'm still dirty about that. I can't believe that was on your list of questions.
I had to put it. It was like the second question I thought of.
I was gonna run with that for like 12 years.
Oh, I'm glad I got you before.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh, that ball is. That
Amazing.
ball is good. If you want to see more cool stuff, follow this guy more than me. Check out all his stuff. Buy his stuff. You can't get it any better than that, Packy. I'm never bowling another shot in this building. This is the best shot I could finish with.
Just like
Thank
that.
you, Wichita University. You guys have been awesome. This place has been awesome. Thank you, Packy. Thank you to everyone. You guys are the best.